3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the post-game show. Jay Phillips with you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Elijah Campbell will join us shortly from downtown Knoxville, Tennessee, site of the SEC men's basketball tournament that gets underway tonight. As we speak, the ACC tournament going on in our nation's capital. We got Wake Forest looking to get their 20th win of the year, going up against Notre Dame. We'll keep you updated on what's going on there. Tonight, game one is the one Carolina fans will be paying attention to, Arkansas-Vanderbilt. That winner will see the Gamecocks tomorrow afternoon. We won't be here with you on this show tomorrow. As things go, tomorrow at 3 o'clock is when Derek and Casey will hit the air. And, you know, for South Carolina men's basketball fans right now, you know, the heaviest lifting, let's put it that way, the heaviest lifting is done. You are in this tournament. You are securely in this tournament. You are, in a way, playing for seeding still. You'd certainly like to win an SEC championship, but I'm not saying they can't. But, you know, starting on Thursday makes it a little bit more difficult. And Arkansas and Vanderbilt played well in their final games of the season, so they'll feel good coming in. Vanderbilt upsetting Florida and Arkansas pushing Alabama in Tuscaloosa to overtime before the Tide finally won that one. So, you know, for Carolina tomorrow, that win doesn't do anything, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, for where you sit right now when it comes to the NCAA tournament. 5 seed, 6 seed feels like the neighborhood Carolina's living in. But if you win tomorrow, and you find a way to beat Auburn on Friday in the same time slot, then maybe there's a conversation to be had. And a lot depends, as we all know, on what goes on around you with a lot of other schools. Are there other upsets? You know, is there chalk all the way that kind of holds things where they are? You know, and the answer is, yeah, there'll be a little bit of both of those kind of things. But looking forward to it. We'll have some more basketball thoughts for you coming up in just a bit. David Cloninger is also in Nashville. He'll join us with a little football, a little basketball, a little baseball as well. Mark Kingston's team winning a close one last night, 4-3 over Georgia State over in North Augusta at the Green Jackets ballpark. Carolina will hit the road for conference play this weekend against Ole Miss. So and they're all hard in the SEC. That's pretty much my opinion on that one anyway. A little bit later on, by the way, going to give you a chance to win a pair of tickets to see Carolina and Vanderbilt next weekend for the home conference opener. So stay tuned for that coming up in just a little bit. A few things to get to today. We'll talk more about what we had yesterday with Pro Day. Got some sound from some Gamecock football players. Coach Beamer joined Elijah and me yesterday. We also threw out a what I call a flash poll question on a spring game. Shane Beamer is in favor of an actual game in the spring against someone else. In my opinion, I think that's a fantastic idea. I've been supportive of that for a while. I think a lot of fans would like to see that. I think players would like to see it. Shane says as a coach, he would like to see it. You could certainly put some things in to mitigate risk. No blitzing, no kickoffs, no touching the quarterback, you know, things like that. A few things here or there. And look, this would be a lot like, say, I don't know, you know, game 2 of the NFL season. Maybe you put your starters in for a few series, guys you know all about, you know what you've got. But, you know, for the rest of the guys, a chance to, you know, make a name for themselves, to be noticed, a chance for the coaches to really figure out who they've got, to see things go at a little bit more full speed. I know a lot of fans worry that if you're playing, say, an FCS team or somebody that wants to make a name for themselves, that they'll come in, you know, looking to hurt somebody or hit a little too hard. I said yesterday, there are ways to mitigate these things. Basically, you say to an opposing AD as you're making this deal, and then that AD to their head coach, look, you know, you get a couple of guys that get personal foul penalties or unsportsmanlikes or unnecessary roughness or something to that effect, and whatever amount of money we're going to pay you gets cut by whatever percent. Yeah, there are ways to make certain, at least as best you possibly can, right? 98% certainty that some of the things that people would be most concerned about don't happen. But it's football, and you're going to get hurt. But would it be more fun than an intra-squad scrimmage? And I have a poll question, and I'll ask it, and I do want to make sure that people understand where I'm going with this. This is about the spring game. Teams are still going to have their intra-squad scrimmages 2 or 3 times during the spring. And remember, the spring game does officially count as a practice day. You get 15 of them, so that's you get 14 days prior. But I don't know that this is going to happen. But we did throw the poll out there, so I'll do that one for you in just a second. Speaking of ADs, I'm going to come back around to this when I get a little bit more information. But Texas A&M has zeroed in on Trev Alberts as their new athletics director, replacing Ross Bjork, who left for Ohio State. Trev has been the AD at Nebraska for the last 3 seasons. Before that, he was at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. He played for Nebraska, played in the NFL, was on ESPN. He's 53 years old. This, and I know our former colleague and great friend Heath Klein said this on Twitter, and I feel the same way. This seemingly came out of nowhere, and I don't. There must be, and I said this on Twitter. I guess I'm missing something. I guess he's done an okay job. It depends, I suppose, sometimes on how you look at success. The football team has not gotten better from a record standpoint. I know that Matt Rule's club lost a lot of one-score games, so they are inching towards a better product. He did let Fred Hoiberg hang around, and he's doing good things with basketball. I think Nebraska's headed to their first men's basketball tournament in more than a decade, so that's good. They're raising money, but it's Nebraska. They're in the Big Ten. You should be raising money. So I'm not really sure, but there must be something else behind the scenes, and I'm not privy to that or paying a lot of attention to it. But A&M is about to have Trev Alberts become their athletics director. So that's a little interesting. We'll talk more about it as we get more detail. Poll question that I mentioned earlier, would you be in favor of college football teams playing a spring exhibition, against another school instead of the typical intra-squad scrimmage? And again, that would be for the spring game. A, yes, test yourself. No, too many risks. Right now, yes is well out front at 80.8%. 19.2 say there are too many risks in that kind of game. Got a couple of hits yesterday that were very good. Sam, by the way, just hit us, said my vote would be both. Intra-squad scrimmage open to the public, and every school gets one exhibition. And again, I'd bring an FCS team in. I'd pay them. I would take them off regular season schedules, which, with all due respect, as I've said for many years, are glorified exhibitions to begin with. They are rarely competitive. Over the course of the split of FCS to FBS, or 1A to, and 1AA, whatever you want to call it, I think the winning percentage for FCS teams is around 4%, and that's across the entire spectrum against FBS. When you narrow that to the Power 5, it drops even more. Yes, there are upsets from time to time. When Appalachian State beat Michigan, I know the Citadel came here. I made a lot of Citadel fans mad a few years ago when they said, what do you mean they're not? Well, again, that Citadel team was good, and that Carolina team was awful. Just absolutely awful. In fact, the 3 times that Carolina has lost to an FCS team, 2 to the Citadel and 1 to Furman, each of those Carolina teams was dreadful. And it still happens. You still play, and you still got to go try to win the game. But 1982 against Furman, 1990 against the Citadel, and 2015 when Coach Spurrier had left. So, look, they won the game. Great, cool. Yay. I'm not here to knock anybody. I just don't think FCS teams belong on Power 5 schedules. And I've made my point very clear on that and why. Think about when Charleston Southern came here. That Carolina team wasn't any good. And they scored 72 points on Charleston Southern. You don't need to be doing that. It's an exhibition game. It's an exhibition game. Play it in the spring. Pay them. Pay them the same that you pay. $250, $300. Doesn't matter to me. But that's what I would do. Jadeveon Clowney is going to visit the Carolina Panthers. Don't know that it's happened as of yet. Of course, Brian Burns traded yesterday to the New York Giants for a 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick. Burns just wanted the heck out of Dodge. It's unfortunate, as I said yesterday, for Panther fans. But Jadeveon Clowney coming in could be, a good replacement. I think where JD is in his career right now, he's not going to be as active and productive as Burns, who's only 25 years old and has already gone to 2 Pro Bowls. But Jadeveon would be coming home. I know that would be attractive to him, to the fan base. You might need to pair him up with somebody else and see what he could do. I mean, there's still production there. There's no question about that. But again, if I'm a Panther fan, I will say this: they did trade with the Steelers for Deontay Johnson, so that was good. Yeah, that's a good wide receiver to help Bryce Young out, and you've got an offensive-minded head coach, although you had one last time. Still predicting that the Panthers will probably be the worst team in the NFC. But, hey, it's the NFL. You never know. But that's certainly what it looks like at this point in time. I think that'd make a lot of fans around here kind of happy. Again, a lot to do. Let me set things up for you for the rest of the day. I want to come back, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do in the next segment here. But coming up at 3:30, David Cloninger will join us. Again, Elijah will be with us soon from Nashville. He's covering a press conference right now. Brad Muller will be with us. He and Dawn Staley had some interesting conversations last night on Carolina Calls, and if you missed it, we'll replay some of that. Coach Staley did get into, on a couple of occasions, both the ugly situation on Sunday and the potential fallout. And I think that second one is potentially more important. Look, sometimes things happen, and we discussed that a lot on Monday's program. But Dawn had some things to say last night upon reflection. If you missed it, by the way, yesterday, Kim Mulkey went on a Baton Rouge radio station and basically said she stands by every single word she said in postgame, which we basically predicted on Monday. That's who she is. That's fine. That's who you are. Most people around the country do not at all agree with how Kim handled it, but I was not at all surprised to see that she was not going to retract or even – I wouldn't maybe expect her to retract anything, but clarify. And she's like, no, I'm good. That's who I am. But Brad will join us coming up at 4:30. And again, Elijah will have more from what he's doing at the SEC tournament, which again gets underway tonight with Game 1 being Arkansas and Vandy. Game 2 is Missouri and Georgia. Over under 800 fans in the building for Game 2. Let's go 801.5. Official. Now, they'll have a lot more sold tickets, right? So we'll see. Nick Saban was in front of Congress yesterday. He's retired now, as all of you know. And he was talking about NIL and some of the changes around college athletics. I like Nick Saban a lot. I do. But I think he got very dramatic yesterday, and I don't know that it really helps his case. I will let you hear a little what he had to say and see what you think, and we'll talk more about how a guy like that can shape what's happening with the future of college sports, especially football. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 19 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. Elijah actually be with us in just a few. He is covering a press conference up in Nashville ahead of the SEC men's basketball tournament. David Cloninger set to join us coming up inside of 15 minutes. Nick Saban was a guest of several senators yesterday, including Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Jim Phillips, no relation, the ACC commissioner, was there. Alabama Athletics Director Greg Byrne was there. A couple other senators that were sort of hosting this. This was not an official hearing. They called it a Senate roundtable. Sounds nice. Jerry Moran of Kansas, Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, two senators were also on hand. Senator Cruz lowering his prediction from 60-40 on passage to 50-50 in terms of any kind of antitrust protection and regulation, which, of course, the NCAA has been asking for quite some time. I mean, it's a presidential election year. And in terms of, look, a third of the Senate, all of the House, I mean, some of these things play well back home, but are they really going to take the time to dig into this? But Nick Saban was the guy who got most of the attention for obvious reasons. After all, he's probably the greatest college football coach in the history of the sport. And I want you to hear this before I set things up. But Nick doesn't like the status quo. And a lot of people, myself included, get frustrated by a lot of what's happening. But here's what Nick Saban said yesterday.
All the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. So it's always was about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. My wife even said to me, we'd have all the recruits over on Sunday with their parents for breakfast, and she would always meet with the mothers and talk about how she was going to help and impact their sons and how they would be well taken care of. And she came to me, like right before I retired and said, why are we doing this? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all they care about is how much you're going to pay them. They don't care about how you're going to develop them, which is all what we've always done. So why are we doing this?
That's a snippet of what Coach Saban had to say yesterday. He also said it's whoever wants to pay the most money, raise the most money, buy the most players, going to have the best opportunity to win. And I don't think that's the spirit of college athletics. I don't think it's ever been the spirit of what we want college athletics to be. And on that last point, I agree. I do think some of the things that NIL has become are not what people thought it was going to be. I agree with our good friend Wes Mitchell, by the way. If you didn't see, Malaysia Fulwiley just signed a deal with a local restaurant that makes sauces, amongst other things. And she's got her own brand of sauce now. That's cool. Like when Bijan Robinson had a mustard when he was playing at Texas. Like Bijan Dijon. I mean, seriously, like that, there's what you wanted from this. You get some notoriety, attach your name to something. Your name, your image, your likeness, y'all get it. And it is there is a lot that's going on with money. But one of the things that again, Coach Saban, in my opinion, being very, very dramatic when he says all the things I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. All the things I believe in no longer exist. That's plenty. Most of the things that he believes in still exist in college athletics. But because of what we're seeing with the amount of money flowing in, there are some things that have become drastically different at the same time. And remember, this happened because of the failure of leadership at the NCAA level for more than a decade to do anything other than fight it, to not find a way to slowly allow it to evolve. Mark Emmert failed miserably in lobbying his presidents and chancellors to do something about this after the Ed O'Bannon case. We've talked about that many, many times. This didn't happen because of the greed of players suddenly, like after COVID. But that's what some people now want you to believe. And that's just not true. It's just not accurate. But, I mean, the things that Coach Saban wanted to do, develop players, develop relationships, developed character, those things are all still there for the kids that want it. And for the kids that don't, this is why a guy like me continues to urge somebody or some entity or entities out there to come up with a true developmental league for football. Everybody else has one. Football doesn't, at least from Nick Saban's point of view. This obviously affects other sports. But let me remind you all again, if you haven't heard me do this, about why players deserve some of this. And by the way, Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, says, hey, if we got to pay players, we may have to cut sports because we don't have enough money. I'm going to give you all the math that I did a couple of months ago. Some of you have heard me say this, some of you have not. And I used the time when Carolina and Arkansas joined the SEC as a line of demarcation here because it's not about the local angle. It's just when the SEC expanded the first time back in the 90s. That year, okay, that first full year that Carolina and Arkansas were in the league, and the league went from 10 to 12 schools, they shared, all 12 schools shared around $27 million. In today's dollars, it's about $60 million, using the inflation calculator, okay? So 12 schools in today's dollars split $60 million, $5 million each. Today, the SEC pays 14 schools 10 times that amount each. Think about that, y'all. Inflation's gone up about 100%, and the distribution to schools has gone up about 1,000%. And you're paying 2 more schools. And by the way, when Oklahoma and Texas come into the league, they're going to get the same prorated share. Think about that. And yet, you got AD saying you got to cut sports? Listen, LSU, and look, the market is the market. And anybody that listens to me knows I'm a free market capitalist. I am. But LSU is going to pay its defensive coordinator $2.5 million. Now, the market's the market. If LSU wants to do that, fine. But if LSU starts crying poor, do you have to? I mean, can you not find $1 million coordinator that's going to be really good? And then put $1.5 million towards volleyball or track or golf or tennis or swimming or whatever? Maybe you can't. I don't know. But 1,000% is the difference in payout to schools in 30 years. And the kids on the field, the kids on the court, the kids on the track, the kids in the pool deserve some of that because they're the ones that have generated this interest, especially the kids on the football field and basketball courts. But all the things I believed in no longer exist. No, that's not true. Fans still love to cheer for their alma mater. They still love to go tailgate on Saturdays. They still want to go to these basketball games. We all still want to fill out our brackets on Sunday night and Monday morning. There's plenty of good things about it. But the difference is that there aren't enough leaders that did something about where we are today to make this happen slowly. This is one of those, I've said before, this is one of those overcorrections on the highway. You're going 75 miles an hour, you see something on the road in the left-hand lane, you swerve way too hard, and bang, you're into the ditch on the right. And that's where college athletics is these days. But don't cry poor, Greg Byrne. And don't, Nick Saban, say that all the things I believed in are gone. They're not. And ultimately, these things will correct themselves. But you're making 1,000% more than you were 30 years ago. I think you got the money to pay for the track team and the volleyball team and the golf team. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. We'll talk more about this in the coming days as Congress potentially does something. I still think the schools need to act on their own, but that's just my opinion. David Cloninger on the other side of the break talking all things Gamecock athletics as the postgame show continues. Oh, man, today is really a swimming pool kind of day. And if you've got one, man, you and your friends and family and neighbors all getting ready to enjoy it. If you don't have one and you and the family have been dreaming of it, now is a fantastic time to call my friends at PL Wine Pool and Spa. See why for so many years they've been the Midlands leader in in-ground vinyl, fiberglass, and gunite swimming pool design, installation, service from start to finish. Pete Ale Wine's going to make sure that backyard dream becomes a reality and stays a reality. They don't just build them, they service them too. They'll keep it clean for you. Things go wrong, they can do equipment repairs. Maybe you've had a vinyl pool for a while and that liner is getting a little faded. Maybe that one side just gets beat down by the sun more than the other side, and you're ready for something new. They can do that for you too. They'll even take a free water sample for you. You just take it in. They'll tell you what you need. 5541 Sunset Boulevard. Online, PLWinepools.com. Time to talk some Gamecock football, basketball, baseball, and how jealous David might be that I saw an Eddie Van Halen used guitar at the Smithsonian Institution last week. Our good friend David Cloninger of the Charleston Post and Courier joins us now. How are you, sir?
Well, not bad, but I mean, that makes me assume that you didn't take it with you.
I wanted to. It was behind glass, and there were like security guards everywhere.
Come on, man. Come on now. You going to let a little thing like that?
There was also a Prince used guitar and a Paul Simon used guitar at this new exhibit at the American History Museum. It's pretty cool, man.
I mean, cool. I can see my retirement right there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you were thinking.
There was also Sandy Koufax baseball. Well, there's a lot of stuff. It was cool. There's a lot of things that are worth a lot of money. But no, I didn't take it. Not this time. Let's start with this basketball team, David, and the importance of this tournament. There's disappointment, I know, from some that Carolina doesn't get the double bye, and I don't know that really playing tomorrow does a lot to enhance their NCAA resume. But you win tomorrow and you get that shot against Auburn. What does this weekend mean?
Well, Jay, you always want to win every game you play, and obviously South Carolina has rarely, if ever, been at this point where they're going to the SEC tournament and they don't have to do anything. There have been a lot of years where they needed to go up there and win a game, maybe two, but that's been dwarfed by the times they had to go up there and win the whole thing just to make sure that they could go to the postseason, and obviously they never have won the whole thing. So this is a rare exception. Doesn't matter what happens. You win or you lose, you're still going to the NCAA tournament. That said, you still want to go ahead and win for better seeding. Just in a season that's made a lot of history, you want to keep making history. Right now, South Carolina is the only member of the 12-team SEC to never win the conference tournament. Obviously, A&M and Missouri are in that group now, too, in the 14-team. Mm-hmm. But you want to go ahead and change that.
So, right now, David, projections 5 seed, 6 seed. I was joking yesterday with Derek and Elijah. I don't like that 5 seed slot, but I shouldn't be that scared, right?
Well, obviously the 5 and the 12, that becomes the upset special. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it used to be that was the most upset-oriented game in the NCAA tournament, that a 12 would usually be the 5. That said, and I'm certainly not discounting anything, but USC's in the rare spot of this, too. No matter what happens, it's been a tremendous season. It's been a heck of a season. So we'll just have to see what happens down the road. That said, here's another thing. The lower seeded you are, the less upset you're going to be if you don't win in the first round.
Yeah. When you look at where things are right now, David, is this basketball team, in your opinion, still growing into itself? And I don't mean that from like a who are they standpoint. They've won 25 basketball games after all, but you want to keep peaking. I guess that's the point. You want to keep climbing and knowing that you are playing your best basketball. Would you say that team or this team is still at that point playing its best basketball, especially after that win Saturday?
I think that they feel that they can play better. I mean, obviously there was nothing that cost them against Tennessee, which could have been for the regular season crown, or at least put them in position to win it, except making a few more shots. Now, nothing against officiating or what happened during that game. It's just Tennessee played a little bit better. So I think South Carolina knows, hey, you could go do a little bit more, and now's the time where you want to do it. So they're not going to be complacent, and they're definitely not going to say that they're playing at their best right now, because I don't think they really believe it. I think they believe that the best is yet to come.
I also joked the other day, and I want your opinion before I switch over to a little baseball and football, David. Again, mostly tongue-in-cheek here, okay? But more important in terms of securing their future, Lamont Paris or Colin Murray Boyles?
Well, as good as Colin Murray Boyles is, guys, he can't go recruit other players. He can't keep the program going. So I think that, you have to do whatever you can to get Lamont Paris there. I know that those talks have been broached. Obviously, we haven't heard if they've been finished, because we would have heard by now. But it's not – USC is not sitting on its hands when it comes to locking up Lamont Paris. So they know what's happened here, because, nobody expected this outside of the men in that locker room. So you got to have a coach to get all that together, and obviously that coach knows very well how to work the transfer portal. And as good as CMB is, he's one player and a tremendously talented player. So you got to hope that they can have their cake and eat it too by getting them both back.
Yeah. Any word yet? By the way, David, on Michi and what he's gonna do? He's got a year left.
Right, yeah. He's still going to just play it out and see how this goes. Obviously, that consideration is there. That's why he did the NBA tryout last year, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, he's not going to have a decision after this week. He's going to wait till everything's said and done.
Dawn Staley was on last night, and we're going to play some cuts from her a little bit later on. Kim Mulkey was on a Baton Rouge radio station yesterday, not really retracting anything, clarifying anything. David, what more are you hearing about the fallout from Sunday? Primarily looking ahead, does this, in your opinion, put an even brighter spotlight on the best program in the country and the reigning national champion at the same time?
Well, in terms of disciplinary fallout, I think that you've seen all it's going to see. Obviously, Camila Cardoso will be not available for the first game of the NCAA tournament. But in terms of punishment from the conference office toward LSU for her repugnant comments, I don't think that you're going to see it because you would have probably already seen it by now. So, but in terms of what Dawn said last night, and I agree with this, I actually wrote it yesterday morning before she spoke. So, like, you have to worry that the spotlight is coming back like it was last year, that you say, oh, that's South Carolina, they play physical, and you're going to have to maybe call it a little tighter. You know that referees see that. You know that officials see that. So you don't want to have that kind of stigma attached to your name once you go into the tournament, because we were all there at Dallas last year, or those that weren't, we watched it on TV, and you saw how that game was called. So you don't want that to have to happen. You don't want to have to keep fighting for your program. And unfortunately, it was a bad luck. But you just put it aside and move on and say you're just going to have to go and deal with it if it happens.
Both men's and women's teams find out their tournament opponents coming up on Sunday during the selection shows. Before I get you out of here, Mark Kingston's team has now won 6 in a row after the heartbreaking weekend, 5-4 losses to Clemson. David, conference play is now upon us. They go to Oxford to start things off. Does this team feel like it's really ready in all phases to make a push towards the top of the SEC?
In terms of being prepared, yes. But they know, it's kind of like you asked about the basketball team, they know they haven't played anywhere close to their best. It's gotten a little better in the past 6 weeks, 6 wins of hitting with runners in scoring position and getting some runs in. Tough ball game last night to get that done. But the fact is they're not nearly at their peak. So they need to do that. Because starting this week, it's going to be 30 games to where you don't get an easy day, and this is what's going to determine where you are in the NCAA tournament. Starting on the road's not great. Starting against a merely decent opponent, Ole Miss, is great, but you still got to go and win the game. So as long as you can get a couple of hits with guys on base, everything should be fine. But that's been it's getting better, but that's been a problem as the season started.
Before I let you go, have you been digging into anything on your favorite National League baseball team's Florida progress?
No, I mean, what's the point? I mean, I'm just going to be sitting there thinking, it's like, oh, well, yeah, Spencer Strider's great. Like, everything's great until you need him to win something big. And I remember where he pitched in college.
Ouch.
And they're not known for winning big games. But
you know what? I don't even remember him being there. He hardly pitched up there. You know?
Well, that's not the point, man. Once it's on you, it's on you. So, and then with Max Fried, they're like, oh, why don't they give him a super extension? And are we not answering the obvious question? He's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
he gets a lot of wins when the games don't matter. I mean, he can't win a postseason game, asterisk, except when his own teammate spikes him in the ankle.
Ouch.
So, if he goes in the postseason and they want to spike him in the ankle for every start, I'll be the biggest Max Fried fan in the world, but I don't think that's going to happen.
He is David Cloninger. You can catch his work every day at postandcourier.com. You can sign up for his newsletter as well, and you can follow him on Twitter if you don't already, DCP&C. Best to the family. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Talk to y'all from Nashville tomorrow.
Yeah, you bet. That is our good friend, David Cloninger. And speaking of Nashville, we'll talk to Elijah here in a few as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay Phillips with you here in the Herndon Chevy studios. Elijah Campbell will be joining us from downtown Nashville shortly. Coach Lamont Paris has wrapped up his press conference ahead of tomorrow's game. Again, Carolina will get the winner of Arkansas-Vandy. That game tips tonight around 7:30 on the SEC network. And then the nightcap, maybe 7 o'clock. I'll double-check for you. Yeah, I think it's 7 o'clock. And then 9:30 is the second game. Yeah, 7 o'clock. So tune in for that one if you're curious about who Carolina's going to play. And Elijah, by the way, later on is going to break down through his EBPI, the Elijah Basketball Percentage Index, who Carolina fans should be pulling for in tonight's game. Mentioned just a second ago with David Cloninger, and appreciate his time as always. Coach Dawn Staley on last night. Cut 15, please, Ed Bird. This was Dawn talking with Brad Muller about what she said to her team after the ugly situation with LSU Sunday afternoon in Greenville.
Yeah, I mean, things happen in a game. It's a heated game, and sometimes unfortunate situations arise out of it. You live and you learn. It's much like a turnover. Like it's much like you make a bad decision to not go to class. I mean, I equate it to that, and I didn't want. I'm happy that no one got hurt. That's one. Two, we have to delve into the why. Camilla felt like her teammate was violated, and she was reacting to that. Camilla, to me, got beat down the entire game and did not. Well, she complained once, and that complaint was she's pulling my hair.
Yep.
Okay, that was the only complaint that came from Camilla. Otherwise, you know, she took a beating. She took a beating, and she lost it when she saw Ashlyn got pushed.
Yep.
And you know, if I'm a teammate of Camilla's, I look at it as, you know, I love that about her. I love it. Because it was a selfless act, because she did. I mean, I would have retaliated with what was happening to her in the game, just me as a player. I would have done it in a way in which it was legal, but I would have retaliated in a way within the rules of the game, because I'm smart enough to know when to do it. So, I mean, it happens. We talked about it. We you know, our players were in a position of not being able to celebrate with us. So I do think that's powerful enough to let them know that can't happen. We got to control our emotions a little bit better. And there are ways in which to handle those situations a lot better. So it's an ugly mark on the SEC Tournament Championship, one that we'll learn from, and one that hopefully we won't have to familiarize ourselves with it anymore.
Yeah, you hope. And certainly I don't know that anything like that is going to happen again, but you never know, right? You never know. I do wonder if anybody will address the hair pulling. Eventually, Angel Reese and Kim Mulkey will be asked about it. Let's see what they say. There's video evidence of it for what it's worth, so you'd be hard-pressed to deny that it happened. Cut 16, please, Ed. This is about a minute long. Dawn talking about how they might be officiated moving forward.
Oh, I'm triggered. I'm triggered from what took place last year. Because I just feel like we are bigger than most teams. So our bigs endure a lot more than they should. And I just don't want the narrative. We had another coach speak on our team last year, heading into the NCAA tournament, and I just want to make sure that our players are protected. Not anything that's outside of the rim of just normal physical basketball, but it was a bit much yesterday. It was a bit much in the Final Four. Okay, so I am. So I will scream it to the top of my lungs that I'm triggered in a way that I feel like going into the tournament, I don't want our team to be deemed overly physical, and I don't want our team to be in a position to have to endure abnormal physicality in the basketball game.
All right. I do have that. I share that concern, and I don't say that subjectively. I do think there are times when officiating crews will get together in the same style that a team may get together and they'll have their own scouting report, an officiating crew. They know what game they're doing. It isn't like this is a blind draw. You know, like, all right, hey, 10 minutes before tip-off, you three, you're going to just work this game. Now go do it. Might be better that way. But that's not how it works. And so what you have to worry about sometimes is, you know, whether or not the officiating crew is going to go out there and try to set a tone really quickly. That if they see anything physical from either side, bang, foul. And suddenly, maybe both sides have, you know, a star player with 2 fouls inside of 6 or 8 minutes. And then it's not as fun a basketball game. But the officials think, well, we're just doing our job. And we're setting the tone. I don't know if it's always going to be their job. And again, there's a lot of subjectivity in that as well. We'll see. We'll talk more about that with Brad Muller coming up in just a little bit. Elijah will rejoin us from Nashville. You are listening to the postgame show. 4 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the post-game show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Jay Phillips here. Elijah Campbell will join us in just a few from Nashville. He's ready to go, Ed says. Ed Bird is at Master Control for us today. Brad Muller, the voice of Carolina women's basketball, coming up in just a little bit. Gamecock baseball got the win last night, 4-3 over Georgia State. Eddie Copper, pretty good for the freshman. He went 4 2/3, gave up a couple of earned runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts. So that's a nice outing for him. But try to see. Matthew Becker got the win last night. I was trying to remember which bullpen guy got it. Kimball, Veach, and Gainey all got some time on the mound as well. Carolina has won 6 in a row to go to 14-3. And again, conference play begins this weekend. We'll have more on that in the coming days. And again, later in the program, we will give you a chance to win Saturday tickets to the Vanderbilt game. That's next weekend, so like a week and a half from now. But we're going to go ahead and do that because those are hot tickets. So we'll do that for you coming up in just a little bit. 803-404-6100 to be a part of the program. Love Chevy phone lines, Firehouse Subs text line, or you can hit us on Twitter at jphillips1075 at 1075 the game, and you can hit Elijah for more on the EBPI and everything else. E_Campbell 3. And Elijah joins us from his
always factual
former hometown of Nashville. We can still that's home, right? I mean, that's home.
I mean, I lived in the Murfreesboro/Nashville metro area for about 7 years. So yeah, it's a secondary home.
Yeah, Murfreesboro is what, like 30 minutes away?
Well, it's a realistic 30-minute drive in theory, but in theory, without the traffic
yeah.
And with appropriate laneage, I guess, on the interstates. If there were, it would be only about 10. Like It's actually really close. It's a skip, hop, and a jump.
Yeah.
But because of the overpopulation of the Murfreesboro area and Nashville too, and some of the infrastructure not being sound enough to adjust to that. That's a whole other radio show in itself. But yeah, it becomes 30 minutes because of that.
I remember I don't remember the development, so I won't be able to embarrass anybody. Not that I would try to embarrass anybody. I won't be attempting that. But there was a commercial that ran on the station, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago for some place out near Blythewood, and it said, and it's only a 25-minute drive to downtown Columbia. And I said it should have one of those like fast talking disclaimers that says like between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Squeezed in at the end there.
Yeah. So, because I was like, come on, man, you ain't getting out there or back and forth in 25 minutes at, 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But anyway, how is Nashville today? More importantly, I think for Gamecock fans, how was Lamont Paris today?
They're upbeat, man. They were really loose during their shoot-around. It was a very light practice. It was one of those, 40-minute open to the media practices. It was just a shoot-around. Got to talk to a few people. Got to catch up with Dane Bradshaw from the SEC Network and ESPN. He's going to be probably on the call for one of these games, and we've getting his thoughts on the team. And it was interesting getting his outside perspective. But Lamont was he's upbeat. I think the biggest takeaway I had from talking to him today is the amount of confidence they have in their style of play carrying over to tournament play. A lot of the questions were kind of geared toward, this is a different setting. You can potentially play 3 games in 3 days. You can potentially play 4 games in 4 days, if you play your cards right and get to the SEC title. And there are certain coaches in basketball whose style of coaching and preparation might not be well suited for a tournament setting. Rick Barnes is probably the quintessential example of this. The guy's won countless conference championships in regular seasons. He is one of the best coaches to ever do it. That man rarely has a season of less than 20 wins on his resume. But when he gets into a tournament setting, there are a lot of early exits in some of these, and I think it's because some coaches, more so than others, aren't as hammered in on the turnaround of the details, because you're basically condensing like a week's worth of preparation in 24 hours. And not even 24 hours, more like 6 or 7, because at some point you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to do walkthroughs with your players to make sure your stuff is sound. So you're going to be able to have the already built-in scouting report you had for these teams. And for South Carolina, it's Haven't played Vanderbilt since mid-February. Hadn't played Arkansas since early January. It was early on in the conference season. Both of those teams are different, so you're going to have to modify your previous scouting reports, and you're going to have to do a fast track on how good they've been since you played them. How are they different since you played them? And, how were they in the specific game before going into your game, which will be obviously the contest tonight. So that can trip up a lot of different coaches. And I think the biggest thing with Lamont is talking to him today, a lot of it is he believes this style of play that this Gamecock team has, the way they defend, the way they are more detail-oriented on their defensive processes, that they should be able to handle this type of environment really well. And the success that they've had in the long regular season should go over well, because there's not much of a change in how they prepare, because that was one of the questions, that somebody had was about this process specifically. I asked, specifically, what about this process is going to be different for you guys? And he goes, really, it's not as different. We will do a little more scouting, have them do it a little more intently, but we focus, he said, quote, 90% of our preparation is on the things that we control and we do. That's honing in on their defensive rules and principles and getting themselves to where they are as sharp as possible on their end, and 10% is maybe adjusting to sets that another team likes, or maybe some actions they like to go to. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway from talking to Lamont and the fellas today.
They were 7-2 on the conference road, which is just remarkable. It's remarkable. I don't care what conference you play in, but to do it in this conference. Now, look, granted, you lost badly in your two losses, and they were two to very good teams. But I bring that point up, Elijah, because you mentioned tournament play, which is played on a neutral floor. So, whether it's a true road environment, which, again, makes it more remarkable because that 7-2 record was typically in a place where people were actively cheering against you, that won't necessarily be the case moving forward. I mean, depending on who you might draw this weekend, again, should they, let's just say, see Kentucky or Tennessee, and I don't think they will, but if they do, and maybe they do, then there'll be a lot more of those fans there cheering against them. But again, they're used to it. But again, I bring that up because, as you say, their style travels. I would almost think there's a greater level of confidence in how they play away from Columbia because of what they've done in true road environments relative to what they'll see now on neutral floors.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, one of my favorite corny adages in basketball is that defense travels. And there's a lot of truth to that, because what is defense? It's preparation and it's effort and it's hustle. And this team does that. And they don't, it's funny because Dane Bradshaw and I, we were talking about a potential matchup with either Arkansas or Vanderbilt, and we're talking about, athletically, Arkansas should be one of the best defensive teams in the SEC. But what separates like an Arkansas from a South Carolina is the detail orientation, the sticking to certain rules, being able to, just stay in front of the man. It's not complex. It's not like, a blitzing defense like with what Houston has, where there are rules, but they're more aggressive in terms of ball screen coverages. But with the South Carolina team, it's don't get screened too long, stay in front of your man, stay chest in front of the ball, and just make guys shoot tough shots. Sometimes they're going to hit them. Sometimes you're going to have a night like the Ole Miss night when it was at Columbia and Alan Flanagan hits a bunch of like Kobe Bryant specials where he's flailing his body 16, 17, 18 feet away from the basket while well guarded. And sometimes that stuff just happens and teams going to be in the game when they shouldn't. But more often than not, statistically speaking, you're going to give yourself the best chance to win, whether you're playing at home, road, Nashville, Tennessee, or Mars. It's not going to really matter where you play if you're able to stick to those principles. And they're so straightforward, and the guys are so bought into it, and they're so bought into the roles and knowing what they can and cannot do defensively. I think that's what's going to be able to hold over really well. I think the only thing that's going to be able to beat the South Carolina team is maybe deficiencies on the offensive end if they have a bad three-point shooting night. Because you can still play great defense and hold a team to 61 points, but if you're scoring 59, 59 is less than 61, right? Like, you're going to lose those games. I think that's the only thing that's going to be able to trip them up so far is if they end up getting a cold shooting night, or maybe a team like Auburn overwhelms them on the defensive side of the ball with just raw athleticism. And that would be, one of the only times where I would think that's a bad matchup in regards to that. But this team does feel like they are tournament ready just on the style of defense that goes with them wherever they go.
I asked David Cloninger a few minutes ago, and I want to find out if you either heard Lamont say it or at least dance around it, but does he feel like this team has peaked? You want to be playing your very best basketball going into this setting. It's rare for this school to have this opportunity. You'd like to have it more often. Maybe Lamont is building that, but for now, you know you're there. They had a really nice win on Saturday. There's no doubt about that. They were playing well down the stretch by and large. Even in the loss to Tennessee was a good game. Do they feel like they're playing their best basketball?
I think that they feel like they're really close. I think they're really close. Or if they're not playing their best, they're playing at a sustained ability to be able to win the games necessary. Because, like Lamont's a detail-oriented coach, man, and one of the more detail-oriented coaches I've ever talked to. And I feel like you can ask him, say, yeah, well, Coach, what do you think you could have done better? And he'll talk to you for 30 minutes, right? But I think he's at a point now where they're going to be able to sustain their success because they do enough of those little things. Sure, if a team's running a zoom action, he would like for guys not to get stuck on screens, and they can maybe get away with that a play or two, but that's going to irk him or how they do that. Or maybe, if you're a team like Vanderbilt that switches up their ball screen coverage like they did in the second half against you in Columbia, and you don't handle it as well, that little detail is going to irk Lamont. But I think for the most part, he does feel like this team is in a position to where they get in this type of setting, neutral floor setting, tournament setting, short turnaround type setting, where he trusts them to be able to get the job done. And I don't think they'll ever get to that 100% that I know he's going to look for, but I think they're at a place now where the success they've had is proven to be really sustainable.
Elijah Campbell is in downtown Nashville covering the SEC men's basketball tournament. Jay Phillips here downtown Columbia in our Herndon Chevy studios. Game 1 tonight is Arkansas-Vanderbilt. That winner plays Carolina tomorrow. Game 2, Georgia and Missouri. Before you got back to the studio there, I threw out an over-under of 801.5 as the not announced attendance tonight, all right, but the
They won't announce that.
The actual attendance for Game 2 of tonight's session, 801.5 over under.
Oh, I'm nailing the under there. Nailing the under because we have and like if Missouri was good, and by not even if they were good, if they were just not winless, I think maybe they would bring a lot more people. Georgia basketball isn't something that has necessarily sparked joy in Athens, but I think that's a perfect storm for this to be a 600 attendance for tonight. It's gonna take a dip. I think we'll have a decent turnout for Arkansas and Vanderbilt. Arkansas fans travel really well. The dozens of Vanderbilt fans that exist are at least here, and you don't have to go very far.
That helps.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to watch your team play away from beautiful Memorial Gymnasium, you get to do it in your hometown and get to watch them one last time, potentially, more than likely. But yeah, but like I said, I use the word dozens, not hundreds. There are dozens of them, and they're here. They're in Nashville, or Bellevue, or Hendersonville. I mean, but they might make the trip.
The only caveat is that they're just like Kentucky fans that are just basketball junkies that have like the weekend pass, and they'll just sit there and not care. So there could be a little wrinkle. I used to joke, by the way, that like if Georgia took away men's basketball as a sport, that like 3 years later, Georgia fans would look around and go like, don't we have a basketball? do we still,
or they'll look at each other and be like, so how's Dennis Felton doing?
Yeah, something like that.
We just hired Mark Fox. No, how's Coach Fox doing? They're 3 coaches behind.
Speaking of schools that do take basketball seriously, like Kentucky, their in-state rival is looking for a coach. I got a few questions to pose to Elijah about what SEC head coaches could be on the Louisville shortlist. You're listening to the postgame show.
Now, check 1 2, microphone check 1 2. What is this? The 5-foot assassin with a roughneck business. We good? Okay, perfect. In 3, 2, 1. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a couple of accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start off here in Richland County. Accidents reported at Clemson Road, at Rame Road, and North Springs. Got one reported on Dutch Fork near Highway 76, at US 176 and Broad River Road. One on Lower Richland Boulevard near Horrell Hill Road. You know what, Ed, can we start that over? Because I didn't even turn my timer on. Horrell? Oh, I sound like Hank Hill when I say that. Horrell Hill. Oh, I like that. Okay, I want to time myself. I hear goofing around. All right. Clock in 3, 2, and 1. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a couple accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start here in Richland County. Okay. Uh-oh. 3, 2, and 1. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a couple of accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start in Lexington County. An accident has just been reported to be blocking the 2 left lanes on I-26 westbound at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. Again, I-26 westbound at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. 2 left lanes blocked, traffic moving very slowly through there. Another accident on Dutch Fork Road near Highway 76 at US 176 and Broad River Road. One on Clemson Road at Rame Road in North Springs. And lastly, we have an accident on Shop Road near South Beltline Boulevard.
Welcome back into the postgame show on this Wednesday. Jay and Elijah with you. Ed Bird at Master Control. The voice of Carolina women's basketball, Brad Muller, coming up in just a few. We'll start looking ahead to the Gamecocks national tournament hopes, how they're feeling about themselves. And Brad can help us recap a little of what he and Dawn talked about last night surrounding what happened in Greenville on Sunday. In the meantime, Mr. Campbell, one of the most high-profile college basketball jobs has opened today. I'll remind everybody here real quick, if you haven't yet heard, Louisville today did fire Kenny Payne, played for them back in the day, but he finished his overall time in Louisville, badly. He was just 12-52. They won one road game while he was there. They lost to NC State in Washington last night to end the season. 3-17 in conference play, 8-24 overall. And their new athletics director, Josh Hurd, says change is needed. There are two candidates on two lists that are shared. There's a lot of names on here, Elijah. The dream candidates, apparently, that I've seen from two different articles are the same two guys. Scott Drew at Baylor, who's won a national title, and Chicago Bulls head coach Billy Donovan, who, of course, has won 2 titles and went to 4 Final Fours as the head coach of the Gators. But, again, he's in the NBA right now. First off, I think those two are long shots, but Louisville has the money. I just don't see either one of them wanting to leave their current gig to go try and pick this thing back up.
Oh, if you're Louisville, you're the biggest anti-Chicago Bulls fan for the next little bit because you really want their season to continue going down the toilet because then the Bulls might be looking for a change. And then if he becomes available, then maybe it would be worth Billy Donovan's time to go back to the college game where I think he would be fantastic for that job. I think that one actually might end up being more likely than Scott Drew. Scott Drew's got it made. He can coach at Baylor as long as he wants. You are in the best basketball conference in America. That's only going to get better once you include, Arizona and Colorado coming into the league as well. And Utah had a pretty solid basketball season this year. The last month has been an absolute disaster, and they played themselves out of the tournament. But that's another whole other point. But they're improving. Utah is. But you are going to become a better basketball conference, even with Texas and Oklahoma departing. I think Drew is going to stay put. I am just fascinated to see, especially if Vanderbilt ends up taking a 9-iron to Arkansas tonight, which is not out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion. Not likely, but not impossible, that Eric Musselman could probably like to find his way out. Yeah. And maybe could be wooed by Louisville a little bit. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on with that Arkansas program this year, man. Like, they did a fantastic job of acquiring talent. And I guess replenishing the losses from the last couple of years. Devo Davis came back, but he's probably the only constant that the team's had the last 3 seasons. But they, completely raided the transfer portal with really good players. Like Caleb Battle from Temple, really solid player. Jeremiah Davenport from Cincinnati was one of their best players. Tremont Mark at Houston was the starting shooting guard at Houston and was one of the best defenders on a really great defensive team and is one of their only sources of offense in the last couple of years. But he hasn't been able to make it work. This season, it has felt like a meltdown more so than any of the other, transfer portal disasters we've seen. Like, Miami last night kind of went down sad in the same way that Arkansas is going to end up going down sad at some point in this tournament. But maybe that's grounds for him to want a new start.
He would want one. I wonder if that makes him as attractive to that Louisville fan base, which is very passionate and is prepared to spend money on that team. I everything you say, I agree with. I just wonder, it'd be nicer, I would think, from their point of view, if he's coming to them after, say, a Sweet 16 run or something like that. Nate Oates and Lamont Paris are on Jeff Borzello's short list, and there's others on there. Mick Cronin at UCLA. Again, he's got a good gig, and he's going into the Big Ten. Jamie Dixon's an interesting
He's never happy.
Yeah, I know.
He will never smile a day in his life.
Look,
I've never seen Mick Cronin smile.
I like what Pat Kelsey's doing. He's going to get Charleston into the tournament. He's done it at Winthrop as well. He's a good coach. Are they looking for somebody like that right now, or do they want established high level already? That's certainly not a knock on Pat, who I think is going to get a very good job very soon. Sean Miller is on this list, but look, if I'm Carolina, if I'm Alabama, I might be a little concerned, and we talked about Lamont Paris and Ohio State. Louisville's not too far from home as well, up in Ohio, up that part of the country. Again, they've got the money, they've got the prestige. I'm not predicting it. Some of the things you said, though, about Musselman, I may apply directly to Nate Oates. I just wonder where Greg Byrne is going to be when Nate Oates comes to him, not so much about his own pay, but says, I need more if you want me to get to the very top. And I just wonder if, Alabama sacrifices things in order for basketball to be as good as the football program is considered to be, especially as Greg Byrne has to steer Kalen DeBoer through the Southeastern Conference and all its machinations right now.
Yeah, and Greg Byrne recently, being quoted as, complaining about not being able to sustain the college model because there's just no money for players.
In the first hour already.
Good, and he deserves it. And you know what? Based off those comments, there's no way in hell he's going to offer up that much money for a basketball coach. No, we got no money for that. We got no money to give you more, Nate Oates, and also like. Coleman Coliseum does sell out really well. They do have really good environments, and I do genuinely believe those people care, and Alabama does have a good basketball history, but the way things are going now, there is no athletic department in the country that kind of exemplifies where things are going quite like the University of Alabama, or there might not be an athletic department that shares, I guess, the same sentiment of where things are going, quite like Alabama right now with Greg Byrne and some of the comments he's made recently. So I can absolutely see, Nate Oates wanting more, and Nate Oates is obviously going to be desired by the Louisvilles, by, if UCLA ever parts with Mick Cronin after he throws his last rage fit, then maybe if I'm UCLA, I'm calling Nate Oates. If I'm Ohio State, I would have been calling Nate Oates. That's definitely one of those things where this guy is kind of on the cutting edge of different basketball philosophies and has been able to be a consistent winner in one of America's toughest leagues the last 3 years. They're one bad 2 or 3 game stretch away this year from winning the conference again. So I don't know why Nate Oates, I guess, wouldn't be even higher on these lists. That'd be one of the first people that I call. I'm definitely calling Billy Donovan, too. But, Nate Oates is
let Billy tell you no. I agree on that. Yeah. Let Billy tell you no. Mark Pope from BYU is doing a nice job. Jerome Tang is doing a great job at K-State. There's some good names on. They're going to get a good coach. I just wonder, again, if the fan base and there are a lot of influential boosters that help make decisions at Louisville. That's a known fact, and I'm not knocking it. That's
college sports.
Yeah. But they really may say this time, look, we don't need to take a chance. We love Kenny, and he's one of ours, but he wasn't really ready for the job. We need somebody who is going to be coming in here, guns a-blazing to get this thing rolling again. So we'll see. But the Louisville job is open. And while the Ohio State job is too, right now, Louisville, again, that's one of your better jobs. And certainly they've got a great history up there. We'll see how that one goes. Gamecock women's basketball creating a lot of great history, and Brad Muller's been a part of it. He'll join us on the other side of the break. We'll go recap what happened in Greenville, including getting Brad's take on Saturday, which we just have not talked enough about. So we'll do that. We'll talk about Sunday, and we'll start looking ahead to next week in the tournament as the postgame show continues. Let me tell you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. For years and years, they have been providing fantastic service to customers all over the Midlands when it comes to heating and air. And now Roy and Dana Finley are taking that same commitment to service and employees to the electrical side of things, providing residential and professional electrical services. So home or business, they can help you out. Panel upgrades, lighting installation, generator installation. They can make electrical repairs as well. And you can use the same phone number or website when you need those kind of things done, 803-677-1500, or you can log on to call888today.com to learn a whole lot more. If it comes time for a brand new HVAC system in your house, don't worry about it cost-wise. 12 months, no payments or interest. You heard me right. 15-year parts and labor guarantee. They're going to take care of you no matter what. That's my good friends at AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We're going to start off in Lexington County. An accident has the two left lanes blocked on I-26 westbound over at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. Again, two left lanes blocked on I-26 westbound at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. Other accidents reported include one at Clemson Road at Rame Road in North Springs, one on Dutch Fork Road Highway 76 at US 176 near Broad River Road, one on Lower Richland Boulevard near Horrell Hill Road, one on Piney Grove Road at St. Andrews Road in Lexington County, and one last one on Shop Road near South Beltline Boulevard.
Going to stay with a little Carolina women's basketball here on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Again, Elijah is in downtown Nashville. Yours truly in my regular spot in downtown Columbia. And Brad Muller in his office still marveling at what happened this weekend. And I'm going to start there, but not with Sunday. Not with Sunday. I want the Brad Muller courtside experience of what happened Saturday as South Carolina nearly blew a 23-point lead, only to see Camila Cardoso hit her first ever three-point shot to win the game?
Just a whole lot of emotions in a short time. I mean, you went from I remember being very angry initially when, not only when they blew the big lead, but when Malaysia was bringing the ball up the floor, and she got wrapped up, right shy of half court, and initially the whistle didn't blow. It was kind of a second late, and I thought that it should have been an intentional foul because it looked like she got wrapped up. Fortunately, they didn't call that. I mean, it would have been great if she shot 2 free throws to tie the game, but fortunately they didn't call that. And then the next thing, the emotions of thinking, oh gosh, we've still got to get a shot off in 1 second, and then the realization of, not that I wasn't sure she was going to make it, but the realization that they're not guarding the inbound pass and Camilla's open. Okay, and that's what happened. So it was great. It was great, and it was a game that, by all counts, should have been a loss. The Tennessee made a great comeback from South Carolina's standpoint. It was, how did you give up a 23-point lead? Depending on which team you were rooting for, but it was a great shot for a great kid, and I was happy that she was the one that hit it.
Brad, 2 straight games of just immense drama, and I know we're going to get to what happened at the end of the SEC championship against LSU, but those are 2 games right there in which, one in which you had a 23-point lead, blew it, found yourself down with a 1.1 seconds to go, found a way to win. Another one against a team that you barely beat by 6 in, I guess, the highest profile game in the entire sport all year. Got a rematch, a highly anticipated rematch. It was very testy even before the scuffle. It was intense. You still found a way to pull out a win. What does that say about this team as we're going into March now, the most important, or I guess the NCAA tournament, we're in March, but you get what I'm saying. What does this say about this team going into really the point where we're, weeks away from potential games like this in the Elite Eight, Final Four, National Championship?
Well, I think what it says, kind of what we've seen all season long, how it hasn't been one person that's carried this team all season long, is that this team just kind of finds a way, even when it's ugly at times. And the other part of it, I think, which is a good thing, is that it shows the 3 games in this tournament when South Carolina did not play its best basketball. In fact, the best game they played was probably the game against LSU and maybe the first quarter against Tennessee, but showing that, hey, you know what, as good as they are, they're beatable. And you're getting to a time of the year where you lose now and you're done, and that's not what anybody wants. The ultimate goal is to be, never thought these words would come out of my mouth. The ultimate goal is to go to Cleveland, where the Final Four is. And, but I think, those games kind of showed, what? As good as this team is, there are teams out there that are good enough to beat you. And you're going to see, assuming the Gamecocks, knock wood, get past the first and second rounds here, once you get to the Sweet 16, you are going to see, most likely a broader scope of teams that are good this year compared to maybe years past, where, let's say, even if the seeds hold, there will be a 4 seed, maybe from the Pac-12 or somebody, a loaded conference that's really, really good, and that you can't just assume this team's going to get to the Final Four. So if that serves as a wake-up call, any of the problems that they had in any of these individual games, then that's certainly a good thing, because I think this team knows that it's not unbeatable, because as coaches said before in practice, they get beat in practice by the highlighters. It's the men's practice team. When they have scrimmages, they've lost there. So I think this team knows that, but I think it's just a good reminder that, hey, if you don't bring your A game and you don't do the things that have made you successful through the first 30-plus games, you could be going home sooner than you want. So, I would think that's the lesson that learned, but it's also learned that, this team just finds a way with, it's a different person every night. It's not the same person every night, and they don't have to depend on one person, and that's what makes it fun. But, this team is resilient and so far has found a way.
Brad, you mentioned the range of emotion on Saturday. Certainly we had that as well on Sunday. Another SEC tournament championship for Dawn Staley. We know as much as anything in her career she loves cutting down the net, and she wore it proudly in postgame. But she also had to answer a lot of things about the ugliness at the end of that ball game in that postgame. I thought the two of you did a really nice job last night of addressing that, what she said to her team. And to piggyback off of what Elijah just asked you, I want you to take us inside again on, how some of what happened on Sunday and how Carolina plays basketball may put a different spotlight on them, especially on the national scene, different officiating crews that maybe haven't seen them as much as some regional crews have. Is there what is the level, in your opinion, of potential fallout from what happened, not during the game, let's put it that way, with LSU?
Well, you remember the game is officiated by humans, and it's easy to be influenced. Everybody in the world saw, what had happened. So, and Coach kind of addressed that last night. You hope that doesn't influence how the game is called in terms of their, for lack of a better word, having rabbit ears on certain things. Because it's unfortunate if you don't get that kind of consistent officiating, how you've been able to play all year long, and then all of a sudden, if you look at somebody, it's a foul. You don't want that because, not saying this is the reason they lost, but going back to last year, let's say in the game against Iowa in the Final Four, there was a lot of fouls that were being called that were, I call them eyelash fouls. You look at somebody funny, the old second touch foul. I mean, you can touch the ball handler once, and even if you touch her a second time, once you move your hand away, even if it's with an eyelash, by the rule of the letter of the law, it's a foul. But, a lot of officials will say, well, if it's not really, affecting the game, you let it go. Well, you had some fouls last year that were called eyelash fouls, and so you just hope that that's not the case, that it's not special attention where officials are looking at just one team specifically, any team, whether it's South Carolina or LSU. What they can do, I think, if they want to correct further problems, is if you can nip it in the bud in terms of some of the the trash talking that goes on. That's part of basketball. I get it, and it's increased over the years, but that's part. But if you cut down on some of it, at least early on, in terms of if the officials maybe when something happens, if there's a lot of jawing early in a game, as there was in this game by both teams, and there was when we were down in Baton Rouge, if the officials say, hey, you know what, we're not going to have this, here's a warning at the beginning, once they see it, let's cut it down and just play ball, then maybe that takes care of things, and it doesn't escalate like that. Maybe that's a better way to handle it. And this is coming from someone who's never been a basketball official, but I think if you let a lot of stuff go like that, the jawing, can lead to a little more, things that maybe people will be looking for. But to me, that's a way you could simmer it down without being unfair in what you're calling and not calling. I thought the officials at times did a really good job in the game of not calling fouls. There was a sequence there where Camila Cardoso was playing outstanding defense on Angel Reese right underneath the basket, and Angel Reese was kind of playing bully ball where she lowered her shoulder into Camila twice, put up a shot, Camila blocked it, Angel Reese got the rebound, she lowers her shoulder again trying to create some separation into Camila, which both times I thought should have been offensive fouls because Camila wasn't moving, her arms were straight up in the air, and she blocked her shot again. She blocked it twice, on the same possession, and I think South Carolina eventually, comes out of there with it. That was a very physical part of the game that they correctly did not call a foul on Camila. So I was happy that those officials, even though the game was physical at that point, didn't all of a sudden blow the whistles. I guess the main thing is you want it to be consistent. If it's a foul in the first quarter, it better be a foul in the fourth quarter. But to answer the original question, you just don't know if that's going to influence someone. You could see how it might, and you certainly hope it doesn't, because if you know the officials' names, then it's not a good game.
Brad, good stuff as always, man. Again, Carolina finds out their tournament their tournament assignment Sunday night. And the first two games will be at home, and the first game will be without Camila Cardoso. And I know that we will talk to you before then. Appreciate you as always, man.
Thank you so much. Have a good week.
That's our good friend Brad Muller, SC Brad92, to follow along on Twitter. All right, if you would like to go to Carolina Vanderbilt baseball next Saturday, about a week and a half away, again, hot tickets. We're going to go ahead and give them away. Caller 5. 803-404-6100. I got the first of two pair, actually. Saturday. I got Saturday over here. That's what Josh told me. So that's what, I got two pairs. So the first of two. So this is a pair. We'll do a pair a little bit later on as well. Caller 5, 803-404-6100. Good luck. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay and Elijah with you. Thanks, as always, to Brad Muller for joining us, talking a little women's hoops. Got some more sound that we'll get to from Dawn in just a little bit. Updates from the ACC tournament. Florida State winning game one of the day, 86-76 over Virginia Tech. Wake Forest leads Notre Dame right now, 64-55 tonight. NC State and Syracuse, followed by Boston College and Clemson. And I'm sorry, it just feels weird for me as somebody who grew up around here to have like 4 games from the ACC tournament without the top 4 seeds playing and on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, you know what's even weirder, Jay?
Tell me.
Last night, Boston College and Miami, 2 traditional Big East powers, played in an ACC tournament.
Right.
Yesterday, to start the day off, during our show, traditional Big East teams, Cincinnati and West Virginia, played against each other in the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
Today, BYU defeated UCF in the Big 12 tournament. Like, at this point, it feels just really weird. And we've talked so much about, conference expansion, but only till we get to the conference tournaments is when it's starting to feel absolutely odd to be able to see these teams play against each other. I know Miami and Boston College is one that's been forever, right? But I was listening to that game driving to Nashville last night, and I was thinking, man, this used to be a Big East football game not too long ago.
Right.
And here we are in the ACC tournament playing 11 and 15 seeds or whatever it was they were, incredibly low and unmemorable. But it's odd.
It is.
It's getting weird.
Yeah, I just, again, I'm going to go super old school, but I just remember how much fun, quarterfinal Friday of the old ACC, when there was just 8 schools in the ACC, and, you could miss school for that in some places. That's how big that Friday was. It was just one of the best days of the year. And
didn't teachers wheel in TVs those days? I've heard many people that are from this area that have solid recollections of watching ACC tournament games in schools.
I remember being in college and on spring break at the beach and basically taking the whole Friday. And a couple of my buddies did too. We were like, yeah, we're going down to the beach in a minute. And we just sit there and watch basketball. Yeah, we're going in a minute. Yeah, we're coming. We're coming. We're coming. But
hey, Duke and Wake Forest is on, okay? Give us 5 basketball minutes. Well, how long is that going to be? Add 20 to 30, whatever. We'll be down there in a minute.
And some that weren't sports fans were like, y'all are idiots, and we're like, nah, we're not. This is great entertainment. But anyway, so we'll keep you updated on that. But Wake looking to get their 20th win of the season. Yesterday, we had Coach Shane Beamer on. Do I have time to play this? Yeah, Ed, you know what? I don't. Never mind.
Nice pump fake.
I know. I'm sorry. I just don't have time for it. Because it's about a 2-minute cut. But yesterday, Elijah and I had Coach Shane Beamer on the program. We always appreciate Coach's time. And amongst the things we discussed, Pro Day, spring ball, we asked Shane about his affinity for playing an exhibition game in the spring against another school and not playing a scrimmage against yourself. And so we threw out a flash poll question, which has now ended. Again, would you be in favor of that? And, again, a real, not a, you say a real game. It'd still be an exhibition. It's not going to count for your regular season, but you'd be playing another school. Would you be in favor of that? A, yes, test yourself. Or B, no, there's too many risks. Basically, it was 81% that said yes. So
nice.
Obviously, that's 19%. I can do that math that said no. And I get the risks, but as you and I said yesterday, Elijah, there's ways to mitigate that risk. Put a yellow jersey, whatever colored jersey that says "Don't hit me" on the quarterbacks. No kickoffs, no blitzing. Maybe even no punt returns. If you're going to punt, that's where you get the ball. I liked your idea if the game is tied at the end, have a place kicking shootout like soccer, which would actually, I think, be good for the place kickers. Add a little pressure to the game.
And your special teams units.
Yeah, your starters are going to be out of the game by the first quarter anyway. If you want to play 12-minute quarters instead of 15-minute quarters, there's ways to still do it. Make a little money for the opponent because that's what people talk about a lot. But I'm glad that this many. Look, I know Twitter polls aren't scientific. I get it. But we had around 400 votes, and 81% said, yeah, do it. I wish more people would kind of get on board the train.
Yeah. Or at least, if anything, what are one of the more fun things in the NFL preseason? It's not the preseason games, it's the joint practices. Even having televised joint practices would be really cool to have, even if it's just seeing, a Xavier Legette go up against a Wofford cornerback, and if the Wofford corner shows out and starts playing really well, people that are associated with that athletic department can say, hey, we might really have something here,
Yeah. It'd be fun. I'm for it. I doubt very seriously that it happens. Headlines of the day, the EBPI predictor on who you should be pulling for tonight. Carolina men's basketball fans, drive around the SEC, ticket giveaway, all coming up in the final hour. Before that, though, let me tell you about our good friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. If you're a homeowner looking to make some improvements around the house, maybe get that dream chef's kitchen, maybe a playroom for the kids, spruce up the backyard, whatever it might be, and you've been in your home a while, tap in to that equity. A home equity line of credit could be a terrific option, and with Palmetto Citizens, you can easily access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period. So listen, a little bit here, a little bit there as things go along. They're ready to help you out with that. Apply online today at palmettocitizens.org or stop in and talk with any of the great people at their 14 convenient Midlands locations. And remember this, too, lower closing costs, lower application fees than the big banks. That's part of what they do at Palmetto Citizens. My wife and I are customers. We've been very happy with what they've done for us. We think you will be, too. Palmetto Citizens, check them out online at palmettocitizens.org and achieve your potential.
I hate when it does that, but it'll do it. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start off with some good news, and that is that an accident has been cleared on I-26 westbound over at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. An accident did have traffic blocked in 2 different lanes there, but that has since been cleared. We still have incidences making traffic delays in Irmo and Kennerly Road at Broad River Road, Piney Grove Road at St. Andrews Road, Hardin Street near US 1, US 378 Gervais Street, and at Bush River Road at I-20.
It is 5 o'clock news time. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show on this Wednesday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. Ed Bird is running things for us at Master Control today. We'll start locally with Carolina baseball. South Carolina beating Georgia State last night. Eddie Copper got the start, pitched well, did not do enough to get the win. Matthew Becker came on and did that. Carolina threw 5 pitchers last night. Again, they win 4-3. That's 6 in a row after the disappointing weekend a week and a half ago against Clemson. They've put that behind them. Conference play begins this weekend. South Carolina will be in Oxford to take on Ole Miss. Again, 14-3 on the season, 4-3 winners last night against Georgia State over in North Augusta at the Augusta Green Jackets ballpark. So there's, again, 6 in a row for South Carolina right now. Some things going on around the country. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if you have not heard, the University of Louisville has fired men's basketball coach Kenny Payne. He had a rough couple of seasons at his alma mater, just 12-52 overall this year, 8-24, 3-17 in conference play. They only won 1 road game while he was their head coach. A national search is obviously underway. And I'll tell you, at least 3 Southeastern Conference coaches on a short list from ESPN's Jeff Borzello, including Lamont Paris, Nate Oates of Alabama, and Eric Musselman of the University of Arkansas. Mick Cronin is on there. Jeff says the dream candidates would be Scott Drew leaving Baylor for Louisville or luring Billy Donovan back into the college ranks at Louisville now that he has been at how long? By the way, Elijah, you know this better. How he's been with the Bulls how long now?
Oh man, probably 4 or 5 years now. He was with the Thunder for a while too. Actually, he might only be the Bulls for maybe 3. I want to double check that because he's been in the NBA for a decade.
I was going to say the NBA like 10 years, right? But I was trying to think how long he's been in Chicago
with various success. I would say. This year's been really but this time in Oklahoma City, that was kind of when he established himself as one of the better coaches in the league.
He's a great coach. I think he's a great coach. I don't know. Look, a lot of people have different motivations in life. He's done everything that can be done in college, obviously, and he's done it more than once. Again, 4 Final Fours and 2 national championships, and the rare back-to-back, which doesn't happen very often in the college ranks.
Hasn't happened since.
I was going to say, I think he's the last one to do it, right? Yeah. Coach K did it, and Billy's done it. It doesn't happen very often. We'll see. But Lamont Paris's name on a short list, and, of course, we've seen Lamont's name linked with Ohio State. He may be linked with others, and South Carolina, of course, would like to lock him up to a long-term extension. David Cloninger did tell us earlier that those talks have at least begun in some way based on what D.C. is hearing. We'll keep you updated on that one, obviously.
They should.
But regardless, Louisville is looking for somebody. If I'm Nate Oates, I'm trying to get that job. But I did look it up, by the way, Elijah. Nate Oates' buyout, $10 million. It's 12, but it'll go down to 10 by the time Louisville can hire him. So it's currently, as we speak today, it's 12. But I think here, maybe at the end of the month, it may drop to 10. That's a lot of money.
they crazy enough to do it at Louisville? They just might
I think they might be. I think they might be. And if I'm Nate, I don't know, man. That's a school that will put basketball first.
And their economy needs it. I remember reading in the Athletic after they got drubbed by Kentucky about how the Louisville basketball team being so bad has impacted local economy. They have that arena they have in Louisville is beautiful. That could be an NBA arena. It is a state of the art facility in a really nice part of town that is built around this facility, right? Like their basketball game days are their biggest days of commerce every single year. And now they've been so bad that the city hurts a little bit from that, with the lack of excitement is hurting the city's bottom line. So, I mean, the school and the city would like to would pay whatever it takes to get just enthusiasm and get butts in seats. I think they might be crazy enough to pay a buyout of $10 million.
It's a big gig. There's no question. And again, they didn't want to fire one of their own, but you just said, it was untenable. You absolutely had to do it, and he was losing out on big time recruits, some of whom they thought he was going to get. But again, one of the premier.
The reason they hired him.
Yeah, one of the premier national jobs is open. Let's just put it that way. The Louisville job, coaches everywhere would be interested in that one. We'll see where it goes. Texas A&M, surprise hire today. They are going to pull Trev Alberts from Nebraska and make him the Aggies athletics director. Trev, speaking of guys that went there, Trev, of course, played for Tom Osborne and the Cornhuskers back in the day. Was in the NFL for a while, was on ESPN for a bit, was the AD at Nebraska Omaha, and has been the full-time AD at Nebraska for the last 3 seasons. He's actually done a nice job in fundraising and getting some things done on campus. Did bring in Matt Rule. The football team technically got a little better. They still lost a lot, but they
couldn't have gotten much worse.
But they weren't losing, by a gajillion points. Instead, they were losing by 7 points and 10 points and things like that. He makes $2.1 million a year and would owe a bigger than $4 million buyout if he leaves during this calendar year. Texas A&M, I imagine, will pay that for him. They just got money sitting around.
Yeah, so. They got boredom money, man. This is something you pay a $4 million buyout for a guy who was the AD at Nebraska when nothing of significance going on there outside of women's volleyball happening. That's boredom money. I have $4 million. It's burning a hole in the athletic department's pocket. We got to spend this right now.
He's done. Look, I wasn't critical earlier of it, but. I don't know. Clearly, whoever they use to conduct this search, I think Trev wants out. There's a really ugly lawsuit that he's part of that was filed, I think, just last month by a former women's basketball player. I won't get into the details right now. It's not just about him. It's more about him as an enabler of the culture around the program. Not that he was directly involved, but again, I won't get into the details right now. But it's not a good look, and there are some today that are speculating that he just wants out of Lincoln in part because of that, not totally because of that, but in part because of that lawsuit. Again, that's speculation, but it's plausible. It's certainly plausible, but he has been named in what could turn into a very salacious time in Lincoln, Nebraska. Wow. But he's done good things sports-wise. So, Texas A&M Texas A&M is going to know he's a defendant in this lawsuit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, usually when you're trying to escape trouble, too, usually the move is laying low and maybe taking, being an athletic director at McNeese State or something like that. I call that the Will Wade route. Sure. When you're in trouble and you're trying to lay low, usually you don't get in trouble and get a raise and a better job. That's hard to do. I don't know what's harder and more impressive, to be able to convince somebody to give you a raise and a better job, or get paid millions of dollars, $60 million like Jimbo Fisher was, to just go away and not do your job again. There's different levels of wizardry and connections going on in those two different scenarios, and I don't know which is harder to pull off.
Well, he's seemingly done it, but we'll see what happens next in that one. Not official yet, but everything is pointing that will be announced officially in the next day or two. Patrick Mahomes is restructuring his contract, and it will free up more than $21 million in cap space for the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. It's the second time already in his young career that he has done this for his club. He is only 28, is signed through the 2031 season now, and the total value of his contract with restructuring, $500 million. $500 million.
That's a lot of money.
It is. He's worth it. I mean, he's already proven that he's worth it. They just made L'Jarius Sneed, their franchise player, at $20 million, and they just signed Chris Jones to a new deal. This year, though, Chris Jones's new deal will only count $7.35 million against the cap, but I believe that his total package. Let me see here. Let me get Chris Jones's total number. I think it was like 159 million. 150. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Floyd Reese. We used to always tell us, here in Nashville, that, the best GMs in the league are the ones who are good with funny money, and they're good at hiding the expenses somewhere to be able to fit everything under the salary cap. The salary cap, my friends, it's a very real thing, and the best GMs are the ones who can make it about as flexible as possible. And it looks like Kansas City is starting to dabble in the dark art of funny money. Well, and if that's only $7 million against your cap for that player, congratulations, you're doing it well.
Yeah. Again, I don't think they can. While they're active, but if I'm the Hunt family, I'm giving guys like Mahomes and Jones, 1% stake in the club. Yeah, it just like here.
Promise them whatever.
Yeah, here. Yeah, and I'll buy you a portion of the county to the north. Or something. I don't know.
Do you want the state of Missouri, actually? Right. It's yours if you just sign for $1 million a year.
What they should do is just buy the Royals and give them that. Patrick Mahomes is now the owner of the Royals. See if that helps anything. Speaking of baseball, this is bad news. Garrett Cole has been shut down by the Yankees. He was just going to sit out for a couple of days, and then they announced a couple of days ago that he would not start the season. He's undergone an MRI on his elbow. He's been reporting what they call discomfort. Aaron Boone, the Yankee manager, says he did not bounce back as they had hoped or expected between outings. He's only 33 years old. He also makes a heck of a lot of money. He is currently in year 5 of his 9-year, $324 million contract. And I don't say this as a judgment. I just say it as a reminder. Baseball contracts are fully guaranteed. He threw 47 pitches in 3 innings of a simulated game and has not done a whole lot since. So we'll see what this means for Garrett Cole. But at age 33, the way he throws, not gonna be surprised if it's a lengthy delay. And finally, on this Wednesday, Clemson women's basketball coach Amanda Butler has been fired after 6 seasons. She was the ACC Coach of the Year in her first campaign up in Clemson. When they made the NCAA tournament, they have not been back since. Graham Neff said in a statement, quote, "We believe that we are resourced and supported in a way to make this one of the top teams in the nation every year." Does not have a list here at this point in time of who Clemson may be looking at to replace Coach Butler. But with what Dawn is doing and with how good many of the programs are in the ACC, you would expect that Clemson wants to compete. We'll see how that one goes. Jim Davis made the 13 NCAA tournaments in his 15 years at Clemson, but they've only been back, I think, maybe once or twice since then, including 5 years ago. So time for change in Clemson.
Real quick, my favorite it might be my favorite press conference memory of this year in basketball season is Coach Butler, after losing to 69 to South Carolina, takes the podium, maybe takes 2 questions, and ends it with the most somber "Go Tigers" you've ever heard. Yeah. It was like a mumble, and I felt bad for her because I was like, you're indoctrinated to have to say that.
Right.
It was the saddest "Go Tigers" I've ever heard. On a scale of 1 to Ed Orgeron in terms of emphasis and excitement on "Go Tiger," I mean, it broke the scale.
Oh,
it broke the scale. It was it was funny, but also uncomfortable at the same time. It's like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That was, by the way, that loss that you speak of was the 13th consecutive loss for Clemson women's basketball to South Carolina.
69 points.
In the rivalry, yeah. It was ugly. There have been a few of those games that Carolina does that to teams. That's our Integrated Media headlines of the day, brought to you by our good friends at Integrated Media. Whether it's a brand new outdoor system set up for you, or whether it's just small jobs like moving things in around the house, installing your video doorbell. No job is too small. And really, you know what? No job's too big for these boys either. I can trust me on that. 803-948-8327. Home theater and home security, so much more. Do it all with my good friends at Integrated Media. Who should you be pulling for tonight, Gamecock fans? The EBPI breakdown will tell you when the postgame show continues.
Yes, sir. All right. Keep it about 35 seconds. Okay. 33.5. Okay. All right. In 3, 2, 1. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a couple accents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start off in Lexington County, where a disabled vehicle has the right lane blocked on I-26 westbound at the I-126 exit 108A. We also have an accident report in Richland County on Bush River Road at I-20, one on Dutch Fork Road, Highway 76 near US 176. That one has been causing some trouble for a while. And lastly, we have an accident reported on Hardin Street near US 1, US 378, and Gervais Street.
Welcome back into the post-game show on this Wednesday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you. Ed Bird at Master Control. Elijah is in downtown Nashville covering the SEC Men's Tournament, which gets underway tonight with a 7 o'clock tip between Arkansas and Vanderbilt. And then tonight in the nightcap, Missouri will try to win a conference game as they play Georgia. And again, I have...
Try to win conference game.
And I have put an over-under in actual attendance for tonight's game 2 at 801.5. And Elijah took the under.
Easily. I didn't hesitate.
Yeah. Again, like I said, my only caveat is the just, basketball junkie Kentucky fans that buy the weekend pass, if you will.
Mm-hmm. You get bang for your buck that way, I will say.
They just like
games.
basketball. It's always weird, man. I mean, they're like half of them these days, they're on their phones, not paying attention, to a game. They don't even play. Like tomorrow, there'll be a ton of Kentucky fans in the gym tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't play till Saturday. They don't play till Friday. And they'll be like, I'm just here. So they may do that tonight.
In these games, too, especially the late ones, because it's going to be like a 9 o'clock, I guess, start, or 8:30, 9 o'clock start here.
Yeah, local time.
Yeah, it's
scheduled for 8:30 local. It'll probably be later.
Yeah, so
because the Vandy and Arkansas are going to double overtime.
Exactly, because they're going to drool on each other for like 60 minutes of basketball. So we might get that one starting at like 9:10 Central Time, meaning it'll be like 11 Eastern, which is when stuff gets real weird after dark. So like there might be some entertainment value in Georgia, Missouri, but it's not one that you should let your children see.
Right.
It's going to get a little too weird.
I'm sticking with it, and I'll need you to do the counting. All right, at least hang for just give me.
I might be able to count by hand. Yeah.
Give me till the under 16 timeout, so that you can do a hand point count. All right.
Which I should be able to do. I could probably do like little tally marks on my hand. I'll find a pen and just like tally mark my hand and be able to count it up that way.
But I'm sticking with that 801.5. By the way, real quick here, and I don't have the number, but speaking of Nashville, I did just see it go by that the Titans have just signed Calvin Ridley, but I don't know for how much money.
It's a good bet.
But I bet
for the Titans.
I bet it's a lot of money.
It's 4 years, $92 million.
Oh wow, that is a lot of money.
Is the number that just came across my phone right now here in town. Yeah, 4 years, $92 million. That is $50 million guaranteed. They also, in what is the most classic pairing of quarterback and city, Mason Rudolph is also signed with the Titans to be their backup.
Interesting. This is Will Levis's team now, right?
Oh, it's Will Levis's team. Yeah, this is Will's as long as he can avoid the turnovers, which we'll see. But they're surrounding him with some good pieces, though. They signed Tony Pollard yesterday. Some good enthusiasm around that. You're getting into a new era of your offense, and they are in discussions and trade discussions to possibly acquire one T. Higgins, who spent his high school days in the state. Now, granted, East Tennessee
wants out.
Ridge,
something's going on in Cincinnati for T. Higgins to want out, but he wants out of that organization. So
I know the Titans will be able to give him money. The Titans have a ton of cap space, and T got franchise tagged. Yeah. So I think he's probably trying to cash in right now.
Well, you may as well.
This is his window to do it,
right.
So I think that and reuniting with Brian Callahan might be things that he probably considers to be in his best interest.
In the meantime, again, the Arkansas-Vanderbilt game will be more heavily attended, we believe, than the Missouri-Georgia game. But it's important to South Carolina fans because the winner will be the Gamecock opponent tomorrow afternoon. The game should be wrapping up around this time tomorrow-ish, depending. And the EBPI has been working overtime all season long, but has gone into postseason mode now. The EBPI being the Elijah Basketball Percentage Index, which
always factual, never fictional.
That's right. Has a different set of parameters than the real the ESPN BPI or other predictive measures out there. So I asked you, and I told you not to tell me, but I asked you this morning to fire up the EBPI and tell Gamecock fans who they should be pulling for tonight and why they should be pulling for that team to face their ball club tomorrow.
So I've got two circumstances here. I ran two simulations. And if you play Arkansas, I think you got about a good 78% chance of winning that game. I'm going to make it more 86% if you play Vanderbilt. Now, I've waffled back and forth on this for a while because Jerry Stackhouse, I will say, is a better tournament setting coach than he is a regular season coach. He's a good scouter. He is a good developer of individual talent, which is what made him a really good G League coach. He won a G League championship, which involves coaching in a tournament and developing talent over the course of a year. And is also, his highlights as coaching at Vanderbilt are getting to an SEC semifinal and making SEC tournament runs, but them never being good enough to get into the NCAA tournament. So I don't want to discount the type of coach Coach Stack is in these situations, but the team this year is significantly less talented than it has been in years prior. Arkansas, way better of a roster. This is a roster, if you just looked on paper, this is a top 3 team in the SEC. It is obviously not played out that way. There has been various levels of dysfunction in Fayetteville, but they do every now and then put together a game that can be impressive, like going to Alabama and taking them to overtime, even though the last sequence before regulation ended, I thought was one of the more atrocious, frustrating sequences of basketball I've ever watched, and it was completely self-inflicted, and it was a microcosm as to what this Arkansas basketball team is. They can be really frustrating. The one reason I would not want to see Arkansas compared to Vanderbilt is also Arkansas's got a little bit of a knockout punch here. I like teams that at least, if you're not a good all-around team, there's one thing you do really well. And in the last 10 games, Arkansas leads the country in free throw rate. Granted, they do get a little handsy on defense, so you might have to be able to draw fouls with them, something South Carolina's not very comfortable doing. They're dead last in offensive free throw rate in the conference. Arkansas is not only first in the last 10 games in the SEC, they are first in the country when it comes to free throw rate. They're shooting about 1 free throw for every 2 field goal attempts in these last 10 games. So while, yes, they are a poor shooting team, yes, they are dysfunctional when it comes to moving without the basketball, they have become wizards at drawing the foul and at least getting to the stripe, and that has kept them in a lot of these games. That's my only holdup on an Arkansas-South Carolina matchup is that, yes, while Arkansas can be dysfunctional defensively, I have no doubt South Carolina, even in a 62-possession game, can score 67, 68 points. You just don't want to give them freebies. I think they can still play defense, and, if it's just one of those games where Pat Adams is feeling himself and he's got the whistle. I don't know if Pat's here or not, but just I'm using Pat as an example here. If he's feeling himself and Arkansas is doing a really good job of selling and being able to get to the free throw line, something like I said, they've done pretty darn well the last 10 games, then maybe you can find yourself in a little bit of a hairy predicament in the final minutes of this game. I still don't foresee that happening, so I'm still in the 70s when it comes to exactly Arkansas and when they play South Carolina's chance of beating Arkansas. I feel pretty good that if Vanderbilt and South Carolina were to play again, South Carolina can adjust to the ball screen coverages that the Commodores threw at them in the second half. They gave them a little bit of trouble, or in the first half, they gave them a little bit of trouble.
So they had a halftime lead.
Swapped it.
Yeah.
Yep. South Carolina rather had the ball screen coverage switch up. I think they figured something out there. I think if these two teams played right now as we speak, I could spot South Carolina 10 points and still feel pretty good, or Vanderbilt 10 points and still feel good about the Gamecocks winning. So if you're a Gamecock fan, hope for the upset.
All right. I will get the EBPI prediction for tonight's game and see how it relates to what the BPI says here on the website. We'll do that for you. Plus, while there are a lot of SEC head coaching names that are linked potentially, at least on wish lists for other jobs, I got one name that will be staying at his school. We'll do that as part of the drive around the SEC as the postgame show rolls on.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this Wednesday afternoon. And we're going to start off in Lexington County. A disabled vehicle has the right lane blocked completely on I-26 westbound over at I-126 near exit 108A. Again, a disabled vehicle has the right lane completely blocked there. An accident's been reported in Columbia on Bush River Road at I-20. Another one has been causing delays for a good majority of the afternoon. That's an accident at Dutch Fork Road, Highway 76 near US 176 near Broad River Road. An accident near the Chick-fil-A has been reported at Hardin Street near US 1 and US 378 near DeRay Street. One on I-20 westbound at Monticello Road, exit 68, and one more on Kennerly Road at Broad River Road.
Oop, turn the microphone on, Phillips. It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Wednesday. Jay and Elijah.
Boo.
Sorry. It's a foul on me.
Personal foul.
Yeah.
Like in semi-pro. Foul. No. 2 fouls.
Yeah.
Travel.
I'll drop a dollar in the jar out front there. But Dave will just take it before it ever goes anywhere else and go buy a honey bun with it, so I don't want to do that yet.
That's right. The ones downstairs, new batch.
That's right.
You can't let him send that machine long. It'll get stale.
I'm just kidding, Dave. Dave's out there right now. I'm just messing with you. I'll buy you a honey bun if I have to. The BPI gives Arkansas a 74.3% chance to beat Vanderbilt tonight. Carolina fans, as Elijah said, could feel more comfortable in pulling for and hoping to play Vanderbilt tomorrow. Does the EBPI agree with the BPI when it comes to the chance of Arkansas winning tonight's game?
The EBPI takes into more account that Arkansas has been more cheeks this year than the computers probably give them credit. I would say they have a 61% chance.
Oh.
I don't want to underestimate this group's ability to completely botch this and end this already nightmarish season in hilariously bad fashion. It's very much in the realm of possibility. I don't think it's in the realm of super likelihood, but it's in the realm of possibility.
We'll see. Arkansas is also, for what it's worth to you gamblers out there, a 6.5-point favorite and an over-under of 148.5. That one
Fans?
No, that's actually not
points.
Yeah, points. Yeah, points.
They're going to score some points. Vanderbilt does play slow. Might not be a bad underplay there.
This one is scheduled to tip just after 7 o'clock. And again, game 2, Missouri and Georgia, as Missouri tries to win conference game. Will tip approximately 25 minutes after the conclusion of Game 1. Tomorrow's Game 1 is Mississippi State and LSU. Game 2, again, will be Carolina versus the winner of Vandy, Arkansas. Game 3 tomorrow, Mississippi and Texas A&M, who just played each other. And A&M went to Oxford and beat the crap out of the Rebels. More on the Rebels in just a second. And Florida will have the nightcap against the Missouri-Georgia winner. Despite the fact that A&M did what they did to Ole Miss the other day, they are a 20-win team. They had a good year in conference play overall. And Chris Beard has just signed a new contract extension. Keith Carter is their AD. Says that they love what he's doing, but they have not yet released the details of this. Now, do remember, I mention this all the time when it comes to coaches in Mississippi. The state of Mississippi has a law that only allows state employees to sign contracts no longer than 4 years at a time. That's a state law. So that's why you don't see Lane Kiffin get, like an 8-year deal, or any other coach that's done well at Ole Miss or Mississippi State or even Southern Miss or whatever. You can only sign a 4-year deal. So basically, it's a new contract in terms of value more than anything else. They'll keep rolling over that 4th year. He got a 4-year deal worth $3.35 million last year. So you figure that's going up. I don't know. You think he gets to the $4 million range so they can keep him?
Yeah, I think so. I think this year, I don't want to use it as a throwaway year, but I don't think the expectations were incredibly high, even though you look at the roster and you're like, wow, I mean, they have some dudes there. And in my personal opinion, I thought this was a poorly coached season for them, but he is a big name. He does have a really good track record. And I think that alone is going to be enough to necessitate a school like Ole Miss, who doesn't necessarily put all their eggs in the basketball basket, to be able to at least give him a lot more leeway than someone like Kermit Davis.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look, clearly he's not going to go to one of these other jobs that could come open or that is already open. And maybe right now with some of the things that happened to him at Texas, it's probably best to continue to hang out in and I mean this in a nice way, but a basketball outpost, perhaps like Oxford, Mississippi, for a couple of more years before you try to re-enter the national spotlight at a big-time program. Remember, Chris Beard is the coach who nearly had Texas Tech winning a national title and then left Lubbock for Austin. Which
went over very well in Lubbock.
Yeah, they love him now.
And revered figure. I don't know when the statue's coming up, but it's got to be soon.
That's right. But in all seriousness, he had a domestic situation with his fiance, and while most of that was taken care of, a lot of things became public, and Texas said, we just can't have this, so they let him go. Ole Miss was willing to take a chance. 20, what were they this year? Hang on, 20-11.
20-11.
And 7-11 in conference play. So maybe I was thinking.
Yeah, killer non-con slate.
I was thinking maybe more close to 900, or 900, 9-9, 500.
Whoa.
No, 9-9, 500,
Whoa.
7-11. Yeah, that'd be something. That would be
900 is more like Bill Self at Kansas. At home.
That's very fair. But anyway, Chris Beard gets himself a raise, not an extension, but a raise. Again, they'll just keep tacking on that fourth year based on state law. And again, we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the headlines of the day, but it is a big news note in the SEC. Texas A&M is going to hire Trev Alberts as their new athletics director, moving Trev from Nebraska down to College Station. This is an interesting move, in my opinion. Again, he brought Matt Rule in. He gave Fred Hoiberg some things to help keep him happy and elevate Nebraska men's basketball. And Hoiberg, who's a good coach, coached the Bulls, coached Iowa State. He is taking them to the NCAA tournament for the first time, I think, in at least 10 years, maybe longer. And Nebraska's kind of like Carolina and Penn State, Elijah. I've said that a bunch. It's remarkable to me that certain schools just can't seem to find their way in. And now here we are in a year where both Nebraska and South Carolina are headed to the men's basketball tournament. I know both schools would love to have this be a more continual thing, but he's raised a lot of money. He's made some renovations to different facilities up there. So there are good things he's done. He's been named in what will turn out to, I hope it's not. Maybe they settle it, but what could become a very salacious lawsuit. He is a defendant. He is not the target of the lawsuit, but as the athletics director, he is named as someone who was enabling an assistant women's basketball coach to have an illicit relationship with a former women's basketball player. She is now suing the university, its head coach, the Board of Regents, all kinds of things. But Trev Alberts apparently was notified, met with this young lady's family, and they basically say he didn't do anything. And so that's there. Again, like I say, I don't know a lot about it. I read a pretty good piece on it in The Athletic this morning. I had heard that this was happening, but I had not gone into the details, to be honest with you, until today when I saw that he was going to A&M. And again, it could get ugly. And there are some speculating that maybe part of his motivation for taking this job is to simply get out of Lincoln. What percentage, I wouldn't know, Elijah. I'm not here to do soap opera type stuff, but it's a real thing. And this young lady also says that the university failed her in her title and their Title IX responsibilities to her, and that is his purview as the AD. So at least that's what they say. But again, there are good things that he has done, and clearly those are the things that A&M is looking at to pay a $4 million buyout and to pay him upwards of $3 million a year.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme in this drive around the SEC, Jay, and that is the SEC should adopt a new slogan. Instead of "it just means more," it means your legal baggage doesn't mean anything here. All legal baggage accepted. SEC, 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 because we talked about Chris Beard getting an extension and a raise, and an AD with some legal trouble of his own with potential Title IX violations, getting a raise and a buyout to leave Nebraska and coming to Texas A&M. So the SEC, where it just means more, with the exception of your legal baggage, it does not mean more.
I don't know what this means, by the way, but this will be A&M's 5th AD since they joined the Southeastern Conference.
Good retention rate. Very nice.
They've only been
very
in
nice.
12 years now. So that's interesting. Again, not a judgment, just a factual observation for you. That's the drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy, your hometown Chevy dealer. The lot is packed with inventory. More on the way. Stop by and see why Herndon makes you smile. We'd like to make you smile by sending you to next Saturday afternoon's Carolina-Vanderbilt baseball game. I got one more pair to give away, 803-404-6100. Again, it's about a week and a half away, so not plans for this weekend, but next. But if you'd like them, we want to go ahead and give them to you. So caller 5, 803-404-6100, a pair of tickets to the Gamecocks and the Commodores next week. Come back on the other side. Aaron Rodgers might do what? We'll explain. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the post-game show on this Wednesday. Elijah and I will not be with you tomorrow. Instead, it will be Carolina basketball. Derek and Judge Manning on the call beginning at 3 o'clock. The game is scheduled for, again, as I like to say, based on how my mother used to say it, 3:30-ish. Ish.
Roughly 3:30.
Yeah. Now, my way's better. Don't say roughly sounds terrible, like it's all mean and beat up. Like a bad piece of fruit from the produce section.
Or you could just go, it's going to be at 3:30?
Right.
Put the question mark at the end of the teleprompter.
Yeah, a little Ron Burgundy never hurts. But
Burgundy will read it.
Officially, the game will begin 25 minutes after the conclusion of Game 1 tomorrow. And I've already forgotten which game that is, Elijah.
That is going to be Mississippi State and LSU.
Thank you. I knew LSU was in it. I just couldn't remember who they were playing. That's the 8-9 game.
Yeah, that's a game Mississippi State cannot lose.
Yeah, that's an interesting
They'll be
one.
sweating it out. That's a bubble game.
You know, I could almost see LSU winning that and then, like, Tennessee sleepwalking a little bit, and suddenly there's LSU on Saturday. Like, you know, I doubt that happens, but.
Wouldn't that be something, though?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a redemption
And then all of a sudden,
game.
Coach McMahon's like, hey, we beat South Carolina and Columbia. Hey, we just beat Tennessee. Hey, we beat a bubble team in Mississippi State. Hey, we had a 500 record in conference play. Put us in.
And then they'll get laughed off the stage. But LSU would probably extend him for that, which really is the bigger win for him short term.
Sure. But, again, they'd have to beat State and then Tennessee in order for those kind of things.
It's asking for a lot.
Before I tell you a little bit about politics, that's where I'm going. That's right. I'm going to talk politics. Go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens Grand Slam giveaway every game. Palmetto Citizens is putting $25 into the Grand Slam pot. If a Gamecock hitter rips a Grand Slam, you can win all the cash in the pot. And I believe, as of last night, it is up to $450. So, good luck. Go to 1075thegame.com and register. And thanks to our good friends at Palmetto Citizens. So, this is a true story. I also believe it's a political stunt to some degree. To what degree, I'm not sure. I don't like putting percentages on things. But if you
No
have
JBPI?
No, I don't. I'm not that smart.
You didn't go to Middle Tennessee State. I get it. I get it. We all couldn't.
I went to South Carolina. No, I'm kidding. Well, I did go to South Carolina, but don't anybody.
That part's true. The knock is not. There you go.
Don't be yelling at me, y'all. I met my wife there, and I got a daughter there now. I love my school. But
Proud alum.
But Robert Kennedy Jr. is running for the presidency of the United States on an independent campaign. And he is considering Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packer, New York Jet, California Golden Bear quarterback, to be his running mate. He's also considering former Predator co-star, professional wrestler and Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura for the same gig, amongst a few others.
Would rather be Robin Ventura.
Yeah, maybe. According to the New York Times, the Kennedy camp approached, I'm reading this from The Athletic, quote, at least a half dozen people with varying degrees of formality to gauge their interest in serving as his running mate. Almost all of them either turned him down or their conversations have not advanced. The two exceptions, Ventura and Rodgers. Kennedy also told the Times he has been speaking with Rodgers pretty continuously for the past month about the position. Now, I think this is a stunt to drum up some actual, notice that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is actually running for the presidency. There's that.
I'm like walking.
But I would think that Aaron Rodgers would have to quit his day job, which is supposed to pay him around $40 million next year. Mm-hmm. I think the vice presidency probably pays not quite that.
Nowhere near. Yeah, not a drop. Not even a drop in the bucket.
But you get a nice house over there on that Navy place, on the Potomac. So there's that. This is a stunt, right? This is a stunt.
Oh, it's got to be. And Aaron Rodgers will do anything to have his name be talked about, good or bad.
But they do have a nice picture of the two of them hiking somewhere. It looks like out west because there's not a lot of trees, and they have
The ayahuasca's in the backpacks.
They have dogs and everything. So I don't know. We'll see. Sure. Why? I mean, he's made enough money.
Oh, yeah. And like, you know what? I think I would rather do something for a lot less money than have to play for the New York Jets as well.
I was going to say, which is worse? Because let's face it. I mean, look, I don't know, and I'm not here to talk. I'm not predicting anything. I don't care. You know, as long as you vote, I don't really care who you vote for. I just want people to vote and participate. But
Even
I don't
if
think
it's Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to win, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But Jesse Ventura as vice president, that could be something. We'll see how that all works out. Y'all enjoy the game. Tomorrow we will see you back here soon.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this Wednesday afternoon. And we're going to start off with one near Chapin that's caused some issues all day long. That's an accident at Dutch Fork Road Highway 76 near US 176 and Broad River Road. Another accident reported on I-20 eastbound after the Alpine Road exit 76B. One on I-20 eastbound at Clemson Road exit 80. One on I-20 westbound over at Monticello Road, exit 68. And the good news, there is an accident that has been cleared in Lexington County on I-26 westbound over at I-126 near exit 108A.